It is episode 2 of the Inside Sports Podcast, Labor Day edition. We're doing things a little bit different this week because of Labor Day. Our facility's closed. We typically do this on Mondays. And I was thinking earlier, this would be a good week to just do audio and keep things simple with a big week for SIU ahead, especially with home meets and whatnot. But then I thought, it would be nice to have a camera because we're doing this outside of Itchy Jones Stadium, home of Saluki baseball, and home of Saluki soccer, which I guess that's where we could start. Ryan, they lost on Thursday to Kansas City. KC's a really, really good team. I don't know if we were expecting too much, but we sit at 2-1-2. What was your takeaway from that match?
Well, takeaway from that match, the team is not overly concerned that was their first loss of the year. I mean, like you said, KC's a pretty good team. They're not just some little pushover school. The Ruse, I didn't know that their mascot was the Ruse.
Like a kangaroo?
Yeah, like a kangaroo. You need to check out the logo if you haven't seen it.
I've seen it. I almost went there to UMKC.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, the Ruse, they're a pretty good team. I mean, we just lost the possession battle. The Kangaroos, they had 7 shots on goal and 19 total shots. We had 1 shot on goal and only took 6 total. They were living on our half of the field. And our midfield defense just might have been lacking in that game. And that happens. I would have thought they'd be rested, but they're not. It's early in the year. You're still working stuff out. Coach Orr's only had 20-some games as a head coach, so you got to figure out your rotation, figure out who you want in there. I don't think this is something that we should be overly concerned about. I think they'll bounce back. They have 2 games this week. They're going to play North Alabama on Thursday, September 5th, Lindenwood, September 8th. Both of these are home games in Carbondale. And, yeah, I heard from a couple players, they're not concerned. They're disappointed they lost, obviously. You never want to lose your first game. But they're confident heading into the games this week.
Yeah, that was Game 5, and they were still undefeated. So, there's definitely something to take away, and now you get to come home and play 2 games. So, I'm not too discouraged with that at all.
I think looking at that game, they played competitive still, even though you ended up losing 2-0. KC didn't score until the 55th minute or something like that, and then they scored a super late one as well. They did live on our side on the field, but I'm encouraged by our defense somewhat to not, falter earlier in the game. In soccer, kind of like hockey, a little bit about baseball, goals are at a premium, and you need to capitalize on the opportunities. And I think that's what you would look forward to most going forward is for them to capitalize offensively.
Like Ryan said, we've got 2 home games this weekend against North Alabama on Thursday and against Lindenwood on Sunday, September 8th. Here in Carbondale. So from one football to the other, Howard, I know this weekend just wasn't a great football weekend, whether it's with soccer or that was fucking terrible. I'm gonna redo that. I'm sorry. That was bad. I don't know where I was going with that. Okay. So from one football to the other, over to Saluki Stadium, where this team that was fucking terrible too. Jeez Louise.
I see where you're going.
Yeah, I see where you're going, but.
I don't know how I'm going to get there. All right, let's just simplify it. From one football to the other, Saluki football lost 41-13 at BYU this past week. A game that I said last week on the pod, thought we had a legitimate chance to win. But BYU brought out a little bit different personnel than I thought, and I think that may have thrown us off a little bit. Howard, go ahead and take it away, because there was a couple encouraging things, but a lot of it was kind of all for naught, really.
Last week, JKruse thought it would be more of a competitive game. I was just worried about the cohesiveness of the offense and the defense. Like we said last week, a lot of new players adjusting to the scheme, and you're going against a school that's a FBS school. So, what happened in this game is you got blitzed basically at the beginning of both halves. They beat you offensively and defensively. They killed you in the trenches. BYU 527 total yards, started 231, 348 through the air. The most encouraging thing that we had was DJ Williams. That he really showed strong things on the ground. And I think Ryan off the pod last week, you talked about how he didn't necessarily show that at Murray State, but he definitely showed that here with RPOs and other design runs. How when he had the ball in his hands, he was explosive, and that was the most encouraging part of our offense. I think after their turnover on downs, it was about 14-0. That first play out when DJ Williams hit Keontae Lewis. That was the most encouraging play, I think, passing-wise. But other than that, I mean, they came out a long drive to open the game, and then in the second half, after that late field goal, long 50-yard field goal to close the first half, I mean, it kind of took the air out of it. It was like, oh, man, I thought we had a chance to come back with that field goal, and then the drive right out of halftime, that really ended it pretty much.
I was really excited by DJ Williams' running ability. He put up, like 130 yards on the ground?
121.
Yeah. I mean, 121 yards in your first game against an FBS opponent.
Yeah.
When the rest of our running game couldn't do anything.
Couldn't do anything at all. Yeah.
That's really, really impressive. Now, his passing, that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But again, FBS opponent, new players adjusting to a new scheme. I'm not worried yet. We get to, after Austin Peay, after Incarnate Word, if we're still not seeing it through the air, then we can start raising some warning signs. But this early in the year, I don't think it's too big of a deal yet.
Yeah, so like Ryan mentioned, this weekend they're at Austin Peay, 2 road games in a row to begin the season. That'll be on 6 p.m. at 6 p.m. Central on ESPN Plus. I think what you guys were just talking about, you just don't want to get to a point in the season where DJ's running ability becomes our entire offense.
Yeah.
I think that would be the biggest concern, and certainly his arm is definitely going to have to make some progress between now and the end of the season. SIU volleyball, though, great weekend for them. Their first weekend of the season, 3-0. Winning the Betty Austin Invitational. They beat Chattanooga 3-1 on Friday, swept Idaho on Saturday relatively easily. And then Sunday's game was an enigma, to say the least, for a lot of different reasons, for not only me personally, and we'll get to that in the dog treats segment, but also they go down 2-0 to, listen, God bless Oral Roberts. They're great in basketball. At least they were for a couple years. They're not a good team. But we go down 2-0 to Oral Roberts. And I got the feeling watching even just the live stats, shout out Alabama A&M for not live streaming that tournament. Even just watching the live stats, I got the feeling that we were holding back something. And in sets 3 through 5, we came out and absolutely dominated. It was unbelievable how it seemed like the easiest reverse sweep of all time. Like sets 3 through 5 were very, my blood pressure was never raised. It was very, very easy almost. And so I think the thing that I took away most from the weekend overall, this is an all-around team. Nobody's going to carry this team. Now, that may be a good thing, that may be a bad thing. They're like the opposite of football, basically. They're so balanced, and hopefully they're not too balanced, but we saw Kelly Franklin, who won the tournament MVP. She came out and had an unbelievable weekend. Annabelle Sulish as well on the outside. They both went for double-doubles in Sunday's game. And I think, that, like I said last week, the biggest question is how is the new middle hitters, how are they going to develop and how are they going to help us out? Larissa Seeger and Avery Parrish were great in the middle. It's great to see Avery Parrish out there in particular because she's a freshman. In her first action, I think she did pretty well. And then, of course, Anna Jaworski and Emma Sturmenska, best setting duo in the Valley, in my opinion. I think they were statistically last year, too. They come out and they put together an incredible Sunday match. So, listen, it's not often you see a team comfortable with multiple setters, and their stats aren't going to be blown up because of it, but that doesn't make them any better or worse. And this team limited the mistakes too, and I think the setters have a big part in that. So they did an excellent job coming back, and there's a lot of encouraging signs.
JKruse, I think you hit the nail on the head last week when you talked about it being a much more balanced team this year. And it's very encouraging to when you win those first 2 games and then you go down 2-0 that last day. It's all right. We still went 2-1 on the weekend, but we would have liked 3-0. But then you come back, you go 3 on the weekend. I'm very excited what it's going to be going into this week at home. But the setters, the outside hitters, the middle hitters, being able to cohesively play together like that, and win. Like we said, Oral Roberts not a great team, but just it's a good feeling when you can come back no matter who it is, convincingly capitalize on mistakes no matter how good the team is. That's what good teams do.
I think big shout out to Kelly Franklin. SIU volleyball is counting on her a lot this year. She delivered tournament MVP. So big shout out to Kelly Franklin.
Well, that'll about wrap up our Dogs of the Vet Saluki Sports segment. Again, coming up this weekend, SIU volleyball is at home for the Saluki Bash. They got Jackson State on Friday at 10, and then 7, they're hosting Memphis. That should be an interesting matchup. And then Saturday, against an Eastern Illinois team that beat us last year, that game will... What's the volleyball equivalent to, like, kickoff and first pitch? First serve.
First
That-
serve.
I'd say probably first serve.
First serve on Saturdays at 1:30 p.m. I gotta get my volleyball lingo up because I don't think I've ever heard anybody say something like that. So now let's get into our Told You So segment. Whoosh. It's time for Told You So. It's everyone's favorite segment. We're going to introduce a few new things this week. Okay, it's a big week for the Told You So, kind of how we're going to format it, set it up. I'm really excited to get into it. In terms of our predictions and records and how we're going to compile them, I think since we're predicting both college and NFL, it's only right that we have an overall sort of feel to it, right? We're going to combine college and NFL records, and I'm calling it the King Tut's Cup because that's just what we're about down here. We're about Egyptian culture down here. So the King Tut's Cup standings after week 1, me and Howard went 2-1, and Ryan is 1-2. Now it should be noted that Ryan and Howard both picked Florida in a game that was not close.
Yeah.
Miami
Yeah.
destroyed Florida,
Yeah.
but Howard got back on the right track. Ryan picked Notre Dame. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wait, you're 2-1 then.
Oh.
Did I mess that up?
I guess you did, because I picked Notre Dame.
And we picked A&M.
Yeah.
So you're 1-2.
Oh,
I messed that up.
yeah, yeah.
Howard's 1-2. Ryan's 2-1.
Like I saw the record and I was confused. I was like,
That's what I thought too.
I was like,
See,
I don't know.
this is what happens when we're
I
not.
trusted you, though.
This is what happens when we're not in the studio. This is what happens when we're doing a destination pod. And it is a beautiful day, by the way. I should
It
say.
really is,
You
yeah.
can definitely hear the leaves in the background. Unbelievably gorgeous day. So let me restart that. I'm 2-1. Ryan is 2-1, and Howard is 1-2. So let's go through each game real quick. Clemson, Georgia. Another not close game. It was 6-0 at halftime, if you can believe it. And then Georgia came out in the second half and was like, we're just going to go back to Georgia football. They handed it off to that freshman running back, Nate Frazier, dominated in that second half. They did not miss Trevor Etienne at all, and which was very, very surprising. And then Clemson, man. Clemson is, I think their program, I don't want to call it dead. Their elite status is dead, though.
Yeah.
For sure
Yeah.
after this game.
No question.
I mean, there's even if they get to play another great team down the line, let's say when they play Florida State or whatever, the question's not asked. There is no bridge to get them back to elite right now. And it's just because Dabo doesn't care to use the transfer portal or change his ways. That's just really all it is. So we all picked Georgia there. That was probably the easiest game of the week. Game 2, like I mentioned, Howard and Ryan were both picking Florida. And I don't fault your logic because Billy Napier didn't need that game. But he didn't get it. Miami destroyed Florida in one of the more surprising results of the weekend. And then the final game, an incredible game to watch. Like the first 2 games sucked, right?
Yeah.
But then you get a great game between Notre Dame and A&M. Me and Howard took A&M, who one of the most frustrating plays I watched on Saturday. I think you might know what I'm talking about. It was 13-13. A&M had the ball. They were driving. And they throw a little, I don't know what you'd call it, this little out route to their running back. And he catches it 1 yard short of the first down marker. He doesn't just turn up field and get the first down. Instead, it becomes 4th and 1. They punt it away. Notre Dame goes down, kicks a field goal. A&M's offense was pretty inept for most of that game. And so shout out to Notre Dame. Shout out to Ryan. He didn't want to pick Notre Dame.
Nope.
But he did. And so that improved him to 2-1 on the week. So let's get into this week's games. 3 more great games. Now, I'm looking at the sheet here. We all 3 have the exact same picks.
Yeah.
So we're going to ride or die together on this one. But let's get into a little bit of analysis. Game 1, a game that heading into last weekend was going to be looked at as one of the premier highlight games of the year. And it still will be, most likely, just because of the 2 brands that are going at it. But Texas is at Michigan. Hello, Mr. Train. Texas is a 6.5-point favorite at Michigan. They were, I think, 3.5 or 4 heading into this last weekend, but Michigan looked awful against Fresno State. Their QB situation is absolutely a mess. Ryan, was there any hesitation in picking Texas in this one?
None at all. I mean, Texas, they came out and dominated in their first game, which they should have. Like, Power 5 schools, like, you better be signing someone that you can just go out and wipe the floor with in your first week. Texas did not disappoint. Michigan did, only struggling with Fresno State. That cannot leave a good taste in their own mouths and their fans' mouths. So, Texas, all the way.
Howard, I assume you didn't go through much trial and tribulation either on this one.
I did not. Really, not for much of these, honestly, these 3 games. But I think Michigan, they didn't show a lot of things to be excited about going forward against better competition when you struggle in the first half against a team that you should be dominating. So that's why I'm taking Texas, who did dominate and look really good their first game.
Yeah, and when you're playing Colorado State, there's only so much you can do to kind of show who you really are as a team. Like, we didn't really learn much about Texas this past weekend, but they looked like a well-oiled machine, and Michigan didn't. I guess the only thing with Michigan that you would have some hope for is, like, were they hiding stuff? Were they, like, trying to save some stuff for Texas? I don't know, because if Texas is as good as everyone thinks they are, then this could get ugly, and it could get ugly early for the Wolverines. And also, it's a noon kickoff. I've never been a fan of noon kickoffs. I think, like I said last week, I think it takes the luster out of the game, so that stadium's probably going to get quiet pretty early. Game number 2, Tennessee is taking on NC State, and another team, NC State. They played, I believe, last Thursday against West Carolina, and they were losing that game late in the third quarter. Needed a not a miracle, but they needed a big fourth quarter to win that game even kind of comfortably. Tennessee's favored by 7. Their quarterback, Nico Amaliava, there's a lot of people who are already calling him the best QB in the country. I think that's a little bit hyperbolic because we haven't even seen him play against a Power 5 school yet as a starter. But I'm going to go Tennessee. And this game is at a neutral site, which, again, I don't love that either. But they're playing at the Panthers Stadium, Bank of America. I think there's going to be a lot more Tennessee fans than NC State, despite the fact that it's in North Carolina. So give me the Vols. This was a pretty easy pick.
I'm taking the Volunteers as well. I wasn't watching the game closely, but I just kept looking at the score, and the score kept going up. Ended 69-3.
Yeah.
And with, like you said, with NC State struggling, their first game, I just don't see how they'll beat Tennessee, who came out firing on all cylinders in their first game.
I think NC State's just got to come out hard. Like, their fourth quarter wasn't terrible. I mean, they did widen the gap in their last game. So, like, if they can play like that all game against Tennessee, they might keep it within, like, 10, 15, 20. But Tennessee's going to... If Tennessee manages to lose this game, that just makes me lose all confidence in myself for picking games ever in the future.
Yeah, Tennessee needs this game, and their schedule is pretty tough once they get into conference play, so they need to go undefeated in non-conference if they really want a shot at making the playoff, and they're a team I'm pretty high on, so I expect them to kind of show out in this game, if you will. Last game of the week, and this is probably the one, I know Texas-Michigan is the biggest game, but I said this with Florida-Miami last week. The hatred and the passion will be higher in this game than any other. It's Colorado-Nebraska. These two teams go way back in their history. Last season, I believe it was week 2, right after Colorado beat TCU, where Nebraska was coming to town, and almost everyone was saying the same thing that they're going to say this year, which was Nebraska's going to go in, they're going to bully them. Well, Colorado didn't let that happen. They destroyed Nebraska last year, but this time they got to go to Lincoln at night on NBC, and we are all in agreement with this one as well, which this one actually scares me more than the other two, and this is the home team. So it's weird how this works out, especially in our heads. But I'm going to take Nebraska. Their quarterback, Dylan Raiola, looked really, really good against UTEP. Again, it's UTEP, so take it for what it's worth. And, of course, Colorado really, really struggled with North Dakota State. But, again, I guess we were kind of expecting that. Like, that wasn't out of the ordinary. We weren't really shocked by that. And they beat Nebraska last year, so I'm not making this pick thinking that Nebraska's going to blow them out. I do think Colorado will be able to hang with them in this game just because of how great their skill talent is with Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn and whatnot. But I am going to take Nebraska. I think eventually they'll get a couple of big sacks with how bad that Colorado offensive line is.
Like you said, Dylan Raiola looked really good. Drawing the Patrick Mahomes comparisons, not just how similar they look, but I mean, Colorado's downfall last year was their offensive line and their defense, and neither one of them looked great this past weekend still. So when you still have those things that are hurting you, when you go against better competition, when you don't look great against North Dakota State, I mean, I don't see how you can pick them in a hostile environment on the road.
I think Nebraska, Dylan Raiola looked good. And remember, they brought in Matt Rule as their coach, too. Was a terrible NFL coach, unfortunately.
Yes,
but
very much so.
Matt Rule had a great track record in college, especially early at schools, too.
Yep.
So I think if he's really trying to set the tone for this Nebraska program going forward, going in and knocking off Colorado, who are treated as one of the premier programs in the country, which just blows my mind.
Yeah.
If Deion Sanders weren't their coach, they would be so forgotten.
Oh, yeah.
But that's just a whole nother thing. Now, Deion Sanders, primetime. His team is playing in primetime this week. So, like,
That's right.
this game is going to be close. I really think it's going to be closer than the line, too. But
Interesting.
I don't think that Nebraska wins by more than 3. I think
Wow.
Colorado keeps it really, really close. Deion's going to have them ready to go. Like, Colorado wants this game bad.
They do. They do. Colorado, Nebraska. It's going to be an interesting one. I'm definitely going to be tuning into this after, of course, we watch the Saluki volleyball team play on Saturday. There's 2 great games at 6:30 there, so you can dual your screens. Another thing we're going to talk about later.
Yep.
You can dual your screens and watch those 2 games at the same time. And folks, the NFL season is upon us. Let's just hop right into it. Ryan has been crafting his takes over the last half hour or so in preparation. Let's just get right into it. And of course, one thing we are bringing back, it was one of my favorite segments last year. It's the state of the team, and this is based on a brief State of the Union address, if you will, sort of thing for each of our teams. And in going in order of our teams and how they finished in the standings last year, Ryan and your stupid Green Bay Packers, go ahead and start. They were the 7th seed in the NFC wildcard last year. Go ahead and take it away.
That's right, JKruse. They were the 7th seed. I fully believe they'll be higher this year. I'm still not sure they beat the Lions for the division, though. So they very well could still be a wild card spot, but I'm okay with that. Why? Packers are still the youngest team in the NFL this year. Now, they are about a year older because all their players got a year older. Their average age is like 24 and a half years old, which is almost a full half year younger than any other team. So be excited about that. They brought in a new kicker, finally. That was one of the biggest frustrations last year, was any time that we sent Anders Carlson out for a kick, you're just like, this is such a roll of the dice. Is he going to make this or not? And in the big moments, more often than not, he just missed. Now, this new guy, his name is Braden Naverson. He was not on the training camp roster, interestingly enough. We had 2 kickers. Brian Gutekunst decided he didn't like either of them, which isn't surprising at all.
It's kind of a problem.
Yeah, it is, honestly, that we brought them in for training camp and they still didn't show out enough to make the roster. Bringing a guy that we've never seen kick, but that's fine. I feel better about that spot this year than I did last year. Our wide receiver room is healthy, finally. Hopefully Christian Watson's hamstrings are figured out. If they're figured out. Which I don't hold out a lot of hope. Extremely talented guy, but just chronically injured.
And I will say, everybody, like, and all the fantasy drafts that have been happening recently, people have been passing on him. Like, nobody's touching him in anything.
Which I don't blame him. I mean, he has awesome potential. And if he can stay healthy and he can meet it, he can be a really good player in this league. But he just hasn't shown he can stay healthy and play more than 8 games in a season and not pull a hamstring. Now, running back room, I'm concerned. Like, Josh Jacobs, he's healthy. I like Josh Jacobs. I didn't love how much the Packers paid him this offseason. That was kind of a head-scratcher, especially when Aaron Jones was still under contract for another year. I didn't love that move, but Jacobs, he's a good player. Our running back depth is where we're hurting, though. A.J. Dillon, he's on IR, neck injury. He may not play this year, and there's even talks his career's in jeopardy. Marshawn, I just lost his name.
Lloyd?
Yeah, Marshawn Lloyd.
USC, yeah.
He's hurt. He shouldn't be out for too long. So we're basically running Josh Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson for the first game, which I like Emmanuel Wilson. Showed flashes last year, just didn't play very much, so we'll see what happens with him. But the defense. On the day that Joe Barry got fired, I posted on my Instagram story the Hallelujah chorus because I was so happy that he was gone. His replacement, Jeff Hafley, their schemes could not be more different. I'm so excited to see how aggressive Hafley is going to be, especially in this first game. I mean, he came out and said, we're going to let it rip for this first game. So I cannot wait to see him just let Rashawn Gary go nuts. Let Lucas Van Ness go nuts. Let those guys eat. Secondary. Xavier McKinney came in to stabilize the safety spot. Javon Bullard, I'm excited to see what he can do as a second-round pick out of Georgia. fantastic player for them, so we'll see what translates to the NFL. And then Eric Stokes. For those of you who aren't Packers fans, you may not know the name Eric Stokes. Another player who has not been healthy for a couple of years. His rookie season, he was a first-round pick. He had a really good rookie season.
Another Georgia guy.
Fun fact, we're almost as bad as the Eagles about drafting Georgia guys. Not quite.
That's a good thing, though.
It is. Like, Georgia's defenses have just been so good that they've produced that many good picks. But Eric Stokes, good rookie year, has been hurt ever since, played a little last year and was not good. But he was supposedly injured for that time. I'm hoping that's the case. If he's healthy and he's playing opposite of Jair Alexander, this secondary could be really, really good.
Definitely, and I'm actually pretty familiar with Jeff Hafley because he was Ohio State's defensive coordinator for a season, and he let Chase Young loose, and that was a big reason why Chase Young ended up being the second pick in the draft. And so, that's one thing I would be really excited about for you guys is the edge rushers are going to get their day, for sure. Next team, Howard Woodard Seahawks. Now you say on the sheet here you have new era. What do you mean by new era? Because don't you have the same quarterback, same coach, same receivers? What do you mean, I guess?
Well, we don't have the same coach. Pete Carroll is gone.
Wait, did I miss that?
Yeah, dude, that was back in like March.
Holy crap.
Wow.
That's bad. That's terrible journalism right there. Who's the new coach?
Mike McDonald, Ravens DC.
I gotta be honest. I missed on that.
Well, as a Seahawks fan, if you were watching the last 2 years, the detriment to this team has not been your quarterback Geno Smith. It hasn't been anything on the offensive side of the ball. It has been entirely the defense that has held this team back because you still went 9-8 both seasons. You made it to the playoffs one season, but in a division where you're matching up against Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, you were consistently just outcoached, outmatched, outschemed on that side of the ball. Mike McDonald, coming from Baltimore, the modern schemes that he ran with simulated pressures and disguising his coverages, I'm just so excited because the talent on the Seahawks, it left so much more to be desired when Pete was the head coach. And I love Pete, and he wasn't even a coach in the defense the last several years, but they tried so many different things, and they just didn't have the coaching to actually apply it, even with all the talent. Devon Witherspoon, Tariq Woolen, Chinnan Worcester did get hurt, but you saw Boye and Mafe had a breakout year. Quandre Diggs is a solid safety. Julian Love had a big year last year. I mean, there was so much talent. The defense still was so bad. I mean, they left so much on the ground, so much you could run up and down on this team, and then that led to you being able to hit them over the middle of the field. We brought Bobby Wagner back, Seahawks legend Bobby Wagner, but he is not good in pass coverage. He is good going downhill, but in pass coverage over the middle of the field, we got torched. So I'm excited about us. And offensively, Geno Smith, I'll die on this hill. He is a good quarterback. He is hampered by bad offensive line play that was mostly last season. That was injured, hampered by injuries, and Abe Lucas, even to start the year, he's going to be hurt again. But I'm excited. Geno's great at evading pressure. New OC as well, and Ryan Grubb from Washington, who's coming in with very much of a spread offense in terms of wide receivers stretching across the formation. But I'm excited about JSN. I'm excited about DK maximizing their potential because JSN, I felt he got hampered a lot last season because of this game, kind of falling back on the depth chart. Shane Waldron, who we'll see what you're talking about with your Bears, but
right.
I don't think he did a terrible job, as a lot of Seahawks fans feel, but I also don't think he did great in terms of, like I said, maximizing the weapons on offense and especially in scoring in the red zone. But I have the team going 9-8. I do have them missing the playoffs. They'll face the NFC North and the AFC East, which is a pretty tough get. So that's why I think they'll go 9-8. I do think we can be better than the Rams. We were talking a little before the pod. I'm not high on the Rams. Their defense does not look good. As good as they're coached offensively with Sean McVay, their defense leaves a lot to be desired. But that's what I have on us. I'm excited because, like you said, the new era, the defense, as great as Pete Carroll was, the defense, it left a lot to be desired when in terms of it just wasn't working anymore. The cover three in terms of the Legion of Boom scheme wasn't doing it. You didn't have the players necessarily, but now you do have talent and you were underperforming. So excited for Seattle football.
Yeah, you guys open with the Broncos. That should be a win.
Should be, but apparently there's a lot of excitement with Bo Nix or whatever. We'll see about that.
I'm expecting
I'm expecting a comfortable win. Like I said, Pete Carroll. Another thing about his Seahawks when he was coaching them. We would play down the competition a lot. A lot of blown leads, a lot of close games. He had terrible challenges too. Oh my God! But I'm expecting differences when you're playing competition that you should beat to start winning more comfortably. That's another thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned that I did, for some reason I knew about the Ryan Grubb thing, but I'm not even gonna say that I missed the Pete Carroll thing because
Just forgot.
I don't know if I ever knew, honestly. I legitimately don't know if I ever even knew that happened.
Yeah.
But the Ryan Grubb thing is huge. I mean, you saw what he did at Washington last year, scheming dudes just wide the heck open.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can do that they got 3 great receivers there in Seattle. So if they can continue to do that, it's going to be a great year for you guys offensively. Again, we'll see how the defense comes along because they are pretty young, but they're talented as heck. Now for the Bears. I'm sorry, what?
Byron Murphy, the second.
And Byron Murphy.
Yep.
Great pick. Now for the Bears. Probably the most hyped, talked about team of the offseason, and for good reason. Like, I think that's pretty understandable to say. They were on Hard Knocks. Everyone's talking about Caleb, and that's about it. And I think we really need to start looking at the rest of this roster. And talking about Caleb and the receivers, right? How he's got him, he's got DJ Moore, traded for Keenan Allen, excellent trade. Drafted Rome Odunze, Ryan Grubb product from Washington. Look, that's all awesome. Shane Waldron, the new OC. That's all awesome. I really want to focus in, though, on the X factors for this team because these are the things people are not really talking about. The DBs. Jalen Johnson, the highest graded defensive back in PFF last year, looked incredible in the preseason. All the training camp footage, he was looking incredible. That guy he's a top 5 corner in the league, in my opinion. I don't think that's too crazy. It sounds crazy, but if you really think about it, you can't really name 5 guys better than him. That's just how good he is now. The other guys in the secondary is who I'm a little worried about. Like Tyreek Stevenson was great last year, but a lot of his big plays were sort of fluky at times. He is a big hitter, though. I am a little worried about Kyler Gordon as well because he hasn't shown the, I guess, sideline to sideline speed that I would like. Again, he's another guy that delivers a lot of big hits, but I worry about his ability to keep up with a lot of these fast slot receivers, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But overall, I think the secondary is good, but I think that will be our X factor. The other big thing is we have Montez Sweat, another incredible trade, another great signing. He made up for the Claypool thing, which, oh my gosh. With how great Montez Sweat was last year, which I saw, by the way, he's like an 84 overall in Madden.
Oh my
It's
God.
criminally
That's
underrated.
so criminal. He's at least a 90, I would think. And you just saw last year how different the team was after just his presence was huge.
Yeah.
And I guess the biggest hole in the defense is who's going to be the guy on the other side of him, rushing the QB. You saw, if you watched Hard Knocks, we tried to trade for Matthew Judon, and it didn't happen. And I'm not saying that's going to make or break our defense, but not having that extra guy on the other side and where Sweat can get double teamed is might be a problem against some of these good squads, particularly in week 2 we face Houston. You can't give Stroud any time back there or else it's over, basically. DeMarcus Walker will be over there. Dominique Robinson will be there. Austin Booker was a big contributor in the preseason, the 5th-round pick out of Kansas. We'll see who emerges from there. I kind of wish they almost brought Ngakoue back too, but they didn't do that, and he was looking all right towards the end of last year as well. But hey, I'm expecting playoffs, as crazy as that sounds, and a lot of that has to do more with the schedule than it does how good or bad I think the Bears are. We got a pretty easy schedule, I can't lie. And we don't even play a divisional game, which I'm not sure if it's like this for our whole division. We don't play a divisional game until week 11.
Wow.
So our first 10 weeks of the season, other than like our bye week, is against a lot of teams that don't really affect our season. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes and how we handle that. But week 1 against the Titans, a team that Ryan Greaser is pretty high on, will go a long way in telling us what kind of team we're going to have. And obviously, if you lose that game, that doesn't mean you're automatically going to suck. But those X factor groups, like I talked about with our edge rushers and with our DBs, I think it's going to be pretty telling. So, but yeah, I'm excited. I don't know how you can't be. We've never really had a quarterback like this, and most teams don't. But when you do, it's like it's a weird feeling, but it's one that I'm really, really excited about. And it's going to be a fun season for the Bears. Even if we don't make the playoffs, there's going to be a lot of intrigue. People are going to be talking about us every week. And I'm honestly considering on game days, like, deleting Twitter or something, because it's going to be toxic as heck. This is going to be a very, very toxic season. So I'm just going to try to eject myself from it and just judge it for myself and just really not let other people get in my head about things, because when Justin was the quarterback, I kind of let people do that to me because I had a personal connection with him because he was Ohio State's guy. But anyway, man, it's going to be an awesome season. I think all three of our teams are going to be in playoff contention at the very least, so we're going to have a lot to talk about. But let's get to it, the picks. And Howard, lead us off. Game number 1, Ravens, who are 3-point underdogs at the Chiefs on Thursday night to lead off the season. Now, interestingly enough, the Chiefs have kind of struggled in these opener games. You saw what they did last year, losing to the Lions. Now, that was basically only because of Kadarius Toney, but it was basically only because of him. But that being said, are the Chiefs going to start 1-0 tonight, or will the Ravens get revenge for the AFC Championship game?
Well, now that you mention it, Kadarius Toney isn't on the team anymore, so maybe I might change my pick. No, I'm going to keep it with the Ravens. This was the toughest game, I think, in college football and NFL in terms of this week that we had to pick.
I agree.
The Ravens defense, even though they lost Mike Mack, which JKruse did not pay attention to, but even though they lost Mike Mack, there's so much talent on the defense. You got Justin Madubuike up front, just to name a name, and then Roquan Smith over the middle, and then Kyle Hamilton in the backfield. You also have Marlon Humphrey. You have so much talent on that defensive side of the ball. The Chiefs, like JKruse mentioned in our sheet, they lost L'Jarius Sneed, and you still have Trent McDuffie on the opposite, but the corner on the opposite side, I think they're gonna be hurt by that a little bit this year. As good as their defense was last year, as good as Steve Spagnuolo was last year, the Ravens' weapons in terms of Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, and then you add Derrick Henry on the ground. The threat that Lamar and Derrick Henry can have on the ground this year, I think will show a lot of surface this season. So I'm picking the Ravens by a little bit because, like I said, I think they're a little bit more balanced on both sides of the ball, and it might just be similar to that game last year when open seasons against the Lions.
I'm also picking the Ravens. I have them winning by 3. I think Howard did too. It's going to be a close game, but the Chiefs are really, really going to miss Sneed.
Yeah.
He was so good in the secondary form last year.
Yeah.
And they really don't, outside of Trent McDuffie, the rest of their secondary is just kind of, it's fine.
I like Justin Reed, but
yeah, I like Justin Reed, but their other safety, Brian Cook, he's played. He's been fine. The Chiefs have done fine with him back there. They won a Super Bowl with him as a safety, so he does well enough. But I don't love him. Their other corner that they're going to start, I'm losing his name.
Is it Joshua Williams?
Yeah, he's a rookie 4th-round pick, I believe. So mid-round corners, they're either great or sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
So they trust him, but I think matching up with Baltimore to start your season, especially a Baltimore team that wants revenge, that was their game in the AFC Championship.
That was their season.
Last year was Baltimore's year.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs just, as they do to so many teams, just pulled the rug out from underneath them. The Bengals can speak to that. Titans can speak to that. Titans haven't been the same since that game.
No.
Bills can speak to that.
Bills, multiple years, can speak to that.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are just the biggest heartbreakers in the NFL, but I think the only hearts they're going to be breaking this weekend are Chiefs fans and Taylor Swift fans.
Well, I don't even know how breakable a Chiefs fan's heart is anymore. You've got 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 years or whatever. It is what it is at this point. I'm going to go ahead and take the Ravens too, which the fact that all 3 of us are going with the Ravens means the Chiefs are pretty much guaranteed to win. But here's the thing, you guys just went through it. On paper, Ravens are better than the Chiefs. I don't think that's crazy to say, but a lot of teams were better than the Chiefs on paper, especially in the playoffs last year, and they've kind of reached that Patriots point where it's okay, they have Mahomes, Kelsey, and Andy Reid.
Yeah.
That's really all. That's why they're going to win, and that may end up being the case here. Again, none of us would be shocked if the Chiefs won this game, for obvious reasons, but we are going to go all 3 with the Ravens. Now, interestingly, there's a Friday night game in Brazil between the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. I heard the report, did you guys see this, by the way, that the Eagles aren't, or maybe both teams?
They're
I'm
not
sure.
wearing green.
They're not allowed to wear green because What was the reason?
It was like some gang thing that they were worried about.
Something about that, yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Things aren't going really well in Brazil right now.
They got
heard.
strict rules too. They interviewed A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith last week about the restrictions in terms of going outside the hotel, and they couldn't do much outside of, I guess, go to practice and go to games.
Yeah, that's not really a great place to be right now. Just to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, just a side note on like NFL expansion into other countries. Like, I love the Germany games. Mexico City game is always great.
Yeah.
I think it's good that they're trying to get down into South America, grow the game of football. I'm not sure that Brazil was the time and place to do this.
No.
Yeah.
There aren't too many places down there that are, let's call it, inhabitable for free humans. Anyway, that was our geopolitical segment on this week's Inside Sports Podcast. Packers, Eagles. I'm going to go ahead and lead it off, okay? Because I know you guys are going to differ from me. I'm going to take the Eagles to win this game. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I hate the Packers, which I do. But the Packers are 3-point underdogs. And to me, this game screams Eagles 28, Packers 27. I see this game going almost exactly like the NFC divisional game between the Packers and Niners last year, where I think the Packers are going to get out early. Eagles are going to make second half adjustments. They're going to score a touchdown with like 2 minutes left. And then Jordan Love is going to have to make a play by himself for once, as opposed to throwing to wide open receivers. And he's going to scramble and throw a pick, and the Eagles are going to win a game that they probably got outplayed in, but they're still going to somehow win it. So I don't know why. Again, these first couple of picks I'm making are completely based off of vibes and completely based off of history and just how things seem to turn out in the NFL. Because I know people make fun of the NFL being scripted, like it's obviously not, but
Yeah.
some things happen every single time, and so you just got to stick with that. And so that's a big reason why I think the Eagles are going to win. If I were to get a little bit X's and O's about it, Saquon being there, I think he's going to have a huge first game in Brazil. I think he's going to go off, especially in that second half, throwing and catching the ball. The Packers, like you said, I mean, their secondary is loaded, so I think Saquon's going to have to be a big part of this game for the Eagles.
I think it's interesting, JKruse, that you mentioned the dysfunction, because that was like the theme of the Eagles season last year. And even though they picked up new coordinators in terms of Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore, on offense and defense, I'm still so high on the Packers. Like, I don't think they'll win that division, but you showed some animosity towards Jordan Love, and I'll tee it off to Ryan. But the Packers, I think their offense and they're just the vibes of their team is just so much more in terms of improving in terms of the Eagles. We don't really know yet. And they had a lot of talent on the defense last year, and they still underperformed. I still don't like their linebackers, which is interesting why you picked Saquon. I kind of forgot about Saquon because I'm buying stock in Josh Jacobs this week, sneak peek into our next segment. But I'm taking the Packers because I think they'll just come out and set the tone. The Eagles, we'll see how much last year lingers into this year. But I'm taking the Packers.
JKruse, you bringing up the divisional game against the 49ers, that just put me out in space for like 2 minutes, just flashing back to that game.
Yeah.
That hurts so much. Call me a delusional Packers fan if you want.
You're a delusional Packers fan.
That's fine. I have them winning this game against the Eagles. I'm taking it 28-24. The Eagles, I am not convinced. Like, yes, they went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Yeah, they won 10 games last year, but they lost 5 of their last 6 and like 6 of their last 8.
Yep.
And they looked horrible against the Buccaneers in the playoffs. I mean, end of the first quarter, that game was over.
Yeah.
They do have new coordinators. I love the Vic Fangio hire. It didn't work out for him in Miami. Kellen Moore, same deal. It didn't work out for him in LA with the Chargers. But I do like both those hires for Nick Sirianni. Still, the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, I am a Jalen Hurts hater. I will hate on Jalen Hurts till the day that I die. Is he better than Wentz? Yes, whatever. I'm past that part of the Eagles. But Jalen Hurts, to me, I'm like the tush-push memes where they're like, that's all that made Jalen Hurts what he was. I love those because I don't believe in Jalen Hurts. He is so lucky to have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith to throw the ball to. Behind that, they got Jahan Dotson. Ooh, yippee. If the Commanders are willing to trade him in the division, that just tells me all I need to know.
That's a good point.
Now, Saquon. I think Saquon will have a big game because he's ready to come to Philly, but that's fine. Saquon's going to be hurt in 3 weeks anyway. So, like, have your good game, do your thing. But I think the Packers win this one. The pressure on Jordan Love to deliver, if you didn't see it, Jordan Love is now tied for the highest paid quarterback in the league on annual average, he's making $55 million a year.
Crazy.
Which is insane. I love Jordan Love, which I didn't entering last season. I do now. $55 million seems like so much for a guy that has only shown half a season of good production. So that contract scares me a little bit. I think he'll play up to it. He better play up to it, because if he doesn't, the Packers are pretty well sunk. But I think he's ready to bring this team really into the frontier of NFC contenders, where they're being mentioned up with the Lions, up with the 49ers. Because I think right now they're still a tier below. And I'm okay with admitting that the Niners and Lions are the clear favorites in the NFC. And they should be, for good reason. But I think the Packers can get a convincing win against the Eagles this week. They're going to put themselves in talks to be top 3, top 2 in the NFC very quickly.
This game will be on Friday night, like I said. At first, I thought it was on Prime. It's actually on Peacock, so we're not going to get a Prime game until next week, it looks like. Game number 3, another game we're all in lockstep in. And I'm glad, this one makes me happy that we're all in lockstep on this. I hope the Browns beat the crap out of the Cowboys. And they may not beat the crap out of them, but I do think they're going to win the game. And it's really more of a Cowboys thing than it is a Browns thing. The Cowboys didn't get better in the offseason. They got worse.
Yeah.
And
no question.
I just don't understand the logic behind not making this team better, because this team, look, I understand what happened against the Packers last year. I get that. But I don't understand why you don't even try it to make why didn't they go after Saquon? Like, if the Eagles could go after Saquon, why couldn't they have gone after Saquon?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, they bring Zeke back. Great.
Yay.
Like 3 yards a carry. Like, what are we doing here? I just don't understand their whole philosophy heading into this offseason. And the Browns, look, they're not in much better shape overall. Like, I mean, their defense is unbelievably good, but Deshaun clearly isn't the same. He'll probably never get back even close to where he used to be.
Sell himself.
But he'll still be, I mean, he'll be good enough to win this game, really, I think. I think the Browns' defense is going to win this one. Obviously, the Cowboys just re-signed CD, which is a big deal. I mean, he's top 3, maybe even the best receiver in the league right now. But, yeah, give me the Browns in this game. It's going to be an ugly one, I think. But, yeah, give me Cleveland.
I really like Cleveland in this matchup, too. Like you said, JKruse, Cowboys got so much worse.
Yeah.
Like, they did not improve at all. They cut Michael Gallup, so their wide receiver 2 is a 33-year-old Brandon Cooks, who had 400 receiving yards last year.
Yeah.
Their running backs, you go down the depth chart. Ezekiel Elliott, who has seen his yards per carry go down every single year since his rookie year in 2016, which, by the way, that'll take us into my next segment.
I just thought of that, and that's just, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, 2016.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
Ezekiel Elliott is over 30 now, if you can believe that. Dalvin Cook, that was a recent signing, which does not move the needle at all whatsoever.
He's just like Zeke. He's washed.
He might be worse than Zeke.
He's definitely
because
worse
he
than
couldn't
Zeke, I
even
would
last
say.
on the Jets last year.
Yeah.
And the Jets' running back room was undrafted rookies outperforming Dalvin Cook. Rico Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn. Deuce Vaughn, I think, could be a fun player. Like Tony Pollard at the beginning of his career. Like,
Sure.
you put him in 5 plays a game, like, all right, he rushed for 30 yards on 5 carries. He's got some pop to him. But Deuce Vaughn is 5'6" and 180 pounds. He is going to get killed by Myles Garrett.
The
in
only
his
reason
first
they
game.
drafted him was because his dad's like in the Cowboys organization.
He is the
so.
ultimate nepotism
Like,
baby.
he was incredible in college. Have you ever watched his
K-State,
college highlights at Kansas State? I mean,
Yeah.
he was unbelievable. But yeah, he's not an NFL running back, unfortunately.
No, the Browns defense, though, like, this could be the best defense in the league.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
their front 4 of Myles Garrett, Shelby Harris, I'm losing their other defensive tackle, but then Zadarius Smith.
Yeah.
Big
People
ad.
forget
That's a big
how
ad.
good Zadarius Smith is.
Mm-hmm.
When he was on the Packers before he hurt his back, he was amazing.
Yep.
He was on the Vikings last year. Had a really quietly underrated season with the Vikings last year. Coming in with the Browns, like, he replaces Jadeveon Clowney. I love his fit with the Browns. I think he's going to be fantastic for them. And the Browns just have so much talent on defense.
Yeah.
I mean, their linebackers are good. Their secondary's good.
Denzel Ward.
Denzel
Oh, yeah.
Ward. Shout out
Nick
Denzel
Newsome,
Ward.
Martin Emerson.
Yeah.
We can go like down the list.
J-
They're
Grant
just stacked.
Delpit.
Grant Delpit. People forget about Grant Delpit.
Yeah.
He's a second-round pick.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's been really good since he recovered from that,
Yeah.
like, broke his leg or something his
Yeah.
rookie year.
Yeah.
He's been really good since then.
Yeah.
Offense, that's the big question mark. Deshaun Watson, they're stuck with him. They just restructured his contract for at least 2 more years because he'd have dead cap hits of 80 and over 100 million the next 2 years if they cut him. So Deshaun Watson's a Cleveland Brown. I'm sorry, Browns fans.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. The running back room is bad. Nick Chubb is going to be out for this first week. Jerome Ford may be a great guy, but does not move the needle at running back whatsoever.
No.
So yeah, Browns are going to roll the Cowboys though.
I just think there's so much dysfunction with the Cowboys. Like, looking at their offseason, Jerry Jones, what are you doing? Like, the only prominent guy on your team who you had signed before you re-signed CD was Trayvon Diggs. And you had Dak, Micah, and CD still unsigned. I'm looking around. Why have you not re-signed one of these guys yet?
Yeah.
Why are you waiting until the last week of the preseason to re-sign one of these guys? Why do you still have no linebackers when that hampered you last season? I don't know what he's doing. As much as he claims that he wants to win a Super Bowl, and the moves are just not reflecting it whatsoever. And I'm taking the Browns in this one. Like you said, the defense, we talked about it. I'm a big wide receiver / cornerback guy, so their secondary gets me turned up every time I see them out there. And I think they'll hamper them down. CD, I don't think he'll get locked up, but, I mean, you can focus him pretty easily, and you'll have success, I think. JOK up the middle as well, Jeremiah Wusu-Koromora or something like that, how you say his name, I think. But I have the Browns in this one as well. The Cowboys, I don't know what they're doing, man.
That'll be the 3:25 game on Fox. Tom Brady, I believe, will be on the call for that game.
Oh boy,
with Kevin Burkhardt. I actually think he's going to be okay. I've heard him a little bit. I was actually I don't know how much it says about me, but I was at the UFL game that he called a little bit. I heard a little bit stuff. He actually sounds okay. So,
Yeah.
Next game, Sunday Night Football. Rams-Lions, rematch of the playoffs last season. In Detroit, Matt Stafford going right back to where his season ended last season in a game that I thought the Rams were going to win, and they were very close to winning that game. But I am going to take the Lions in this one. Rams, very similar to the Cowboys in that they got worse this offseason. Aaron Donald retires. He's gone. Other than that, where's the juice on this team, really? Especially on defense, man. Now, they've still got Cooper Kupp. They've still got Puka. Kyron Williams looks like he's bound for a big season here. Defensively, it's going to be tough, though, especially against this Lions team. I could see the Lions getting into the 40s in this game. This is going to be a very, very high-scoring affair that I think Detroit's going to win relatively easily.
Yeah, a playoff rematch from last year's postseason where the Lions got better on defense and the Rams got worse. I don't think people are talking about Aaron Donald retiring as much of a big deal as it is. He was still a prominent, like he was playing at all-pro level still, as underrated as he was, and how crazy that is to say. The Rams, I think they did. You got Jared Verse. They signed a couple corners. I think Trey White.
Yep.
And the guy from Jackson.
Darius Williams.
Yeah. But still, like, you traded Ernest Jones, so you lost your 2 best defensive players from last year. And like JKruse said, with the weapons, the offensive line, and the Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs, just the weapons the Lions have with Ben Johnson coaching it, I think they'll win this one pretty comfortably.
I'm also taking the Lions in this game. Now, Howard, you kind of stole my thunder on the Rams defense. Another name I want to point out to you is Kobe Turner.
Yeah.
He's being looked at as the Aaron Donald replacement, or as much of one as you can get. Because you can't replace a guy like Aaron Donald.
Exactly.
But Kobe Turner, he should be a good guy to watch. He should be fun. The Rams' offensive line is not healthy heading into this game either. I think they're down to their 3rd-string left tackle. This could get really ugly with Aiden Hutchinson coming off the edge.
DJ Reader up the middle.
Yeah, DJ Reader up the middle. Matthew Stafford is going to be on the ground a lot during this game.
Yeah.
I agree. And then the final game. Honestly, this one, I don't really know how to feel overall about it as a game. I find it weird that they're putting Aaron Rodgers back on Monday night, kind of back where it all ended last year, and they're going to make him do it again. But the Jets and Niners are playing on Monday, and to be honest, this is the game I'm looking forward to watching most, because it's the Jets who, if there's any fan base in the league who's had the longest year of their life, it's been the Jets. I mean, they are thanking God that finally this season can start, because their season last year was over in about 10 seconds. So with that being said, Ryan Gracer, your team's season ended at the Niners last year. Are the Niners going to start off 1-0 in 2024?
The Niners are going to start off 1-0. And disclaimer, the 49ers to me are they are my most hated team in
Oh, yeah.
sports.
Oh, yeah.
I hate
What?
the 49ers
Oh, yeah.
more
like
than
simply because they just
more
beat
than
Packers?
any other team, just because of the amount of emotional distress they've caused me over the last 5 years. Between the heartbreaking playoff losses, the regular season losses, yeah, it's just been horrible. So it pains me to pick them. But the Jets, everybody's excited about the Jets. I'm really not. I think they'll be good. Their defense, Robert Saleh and his defense, okay, yay. The Jets, I don't see them winning more than 9 games. It doesn't move the needle. You look at their depth chart, Aaron Rodgers, we'll see how he comes back from his Achilles tear. If all the ayahuasca and all the other stuff he's been doing works for him. It's great. Breece Hall is phenomenal. Love him. Garrett Wilson, awesome. Then their next receivers, their starting receivers, Mike Williams. If you don't remember the name Mike Williams, I don't blame you, because he's always injured, perpetually injured on the Chargers. Also another reason you wouldn't know him, because he played for the Chargers. And then Xavier Gibson, 4th-round pick. Receivers, you can find receivers good late in the draft. I mean, look at Puka last year. But we don't really know what he's going to bring. Their offensive line, Tyron Smith, surprise, surprise, he's already hurt. Who would have ever guessed that? I do like John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, Elijah Vera Tucker, Morgan Moses. It'll be all right. The defense, though, I'm just so unexcited about the defense outside of Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner.
Wow.
Interesting.
I don't think they're better than last year. If they match that performance, call me surprised. I don't think they're going to be better. 49ers, they did get worse. Their offensive line is really concerning.
Yeah.
Because Trent Williams is hurt, and outside of him, their line was not very good anyway.
Nope.
So that could be what holds the Niners back this year. I think it is what's going to hold them back. They also lost Eric Armstead to the Jags this year. Couldn't pay everybody.
Nope.
So Armstead's gone. Dre Greenlaw is still hurt,
Yep.
but they'll be fine. They have Fred Warner.
And one of the most fluke injuries of all time.
Seriously.
Unbelievable.
They have Fred Warner. They'll be fine. Nick Bosa's healthy. He's a beast, as always. Brock Purdy, one of the most overhated quarterbacks in the league. I really like Purdy. Sue me. I don't really care. I do like him. I don't like the Niners. They got Brandon Ayuk on a huge deal. If nobody saw that this week.
Yep.
It's 4 years, $120 million.
I think it's front-loaded, too.
Yep.
It was front-loaded. So he should actually stick around for the long term.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what that means for Debo.
Debo,
Yeah.
Really interested to see what that means for him.
That's sort of why I'm picking the Jets in this game, because I think the Niners have reached a point, and it's kind of concerning. If I was a Niners fan, I'd be really worried about the fact that they haven't gotten the Super Bowl yet, because they're reaching that point that we all knew this day was coming, where they're gonna have to start paying all these superstars, and they are superstars. Don't get me wrong. That's why they've been so good. It's why they've been able to go so far in the playoffs this last few years. But that being said, you're getting to a point where the egos are going to start coming into play even more than they already kind of have. I mean, you saw it with Brandon Ayuk. He just now got signed. Debo, he's been in limbo for a while. I mean, obviously he's going to play and he's going to be good, but and then of course there's the Brock Purdy thing, man. And I understand that the guy he does the job right, and he runs the system well. He's a system QB, and obviously as the years have gone on, that term has gotten a little bit more positive in terms of the rhetoric we use around it. But I'm going to take the Jets, man. And there's just some juice here. I really think this Aaron Rodgers to Garrett Wilson connection is going to be incredible this season. I think Garrett Wilson is a 100-plus catches, 1,500-plus yards guy this year. I'm truly with that. I think he's absolutely incredible. And obviously being an Ohio State guy, I've known that since 2019. So I'm a big Garrett Wilson guy. I'm a big Jets guy this year. I don't like them. I'm just talking about on paper. I really like what they've got going. So I trust Robert Saleh. That's another angle to this too, is Robert Saleh going against the Niners.
Yep.
First game of the season. So it's going to be an interesting chess match between those two. Howard, are you coming to the Jets, or are you going to go 5 for 5 and agreeing with Ryan?
Oh, wow. 5 for 5. Yeah, I'm going to stay with Ryan here. As much as I agree with Ryan, my brother, in terms of 49ers hate, they're in my division. I can't stand them. And I love that they haven't won a Super Bowl. And when I'm telling you, if you see me watching these past Super Bowls with the Niners in them, it's almost like I'm a fan of the other team they're playing. It's like I don't want them to win whatsoever. But the biggest thing about the Jets is we don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to look like. And going against the 49ers defense is not a good in terms of trying to get off on the right foot of what you want to do. So I do have the 49ers here. Trent Williams, I don't think he's going to play because of the holdout thing that's going on with him in his contract, which is another thing that we're talking about in terms of they're having to play Brock Purdy, so you can't pay these guys. And if you don't have him against a Jets defensive line that has gone after people, Ryan, you kind of shocked me on your take on the defense. I kind of see what you're saying, but you still have C.J. Mosley and Quincy Williams. You still got D.J. Reed on the other side of Sauce Gardner and Jermaine Johnson. Their defense is still pretty good. But like we said before, Aaron Rodgers, I don't know how that's going to be going against Fred Warner, going against Charvarius Ward. You just have so much, and the Niners are at home. I'm taking San Francisco as much as I hate it. I'd love to be wrong on this, by the way.
So I will come back to my defense take with the Jets real quick. They are going to be worse. They are primed for regression because the Jets, you will always see like the best team in the league, like on defense or offense, they always regress the next year. That's just how statistical analysis works. They will regress. They're going to be good. I mean, they'll easily be a top 10, probably a top 5 unit. They just aren't going to be the only thing keeping the Jets in a game this year.
Yeah.
And then underrated addition for the 49ers this offseason, nobody talked about it, Leonard Floyd. Came over from Buffalo. I forgot about that.
I did too.
I was looking at their depth chart this morning. Leonard Floyd and Nick Bosa on the outsides. And they also added Devondre Campbell, so he's going to be filling in for Dre Greenlaw. Talanoa Hufanaga's healthy again.
Yeah.
They were missing him last year. So, as much as it pains me to say it, 49ers look really good going into this year yet again.
Yeah.
It's going to be an incredible week 1 of the NFL season. Before we go to Major League Baseball, I do want to throw in the fantasy football thing a little bit. I just had my draft yesterday, so these are things I'm thinking about a lot. Ryan, go ahead and lead us off because I know this has been what you've been waiting for all day. So take it away. Who are you buying and selling for week 1? This isn't the whole season. For week 1 of the NFL season, Ryan, who are you buying and selling?
I'm buying Drake London, over 14.4 points. I love Drake London coming out of college. You just have to feel bad for the guy. Arthur Smith is his coach, which just inept as an offensive mind. I love that the Steelers hired him because I really don't like the Steelers either. So I can't wait to see how that goes for him with even fewer playmakers in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
But Atlanta, they had so much except a quarterback. He had Desmond Ridder, who got cut from the Cardinals, who traded for him this offseason.
They re-signed him to the practice squad.
They did sign him to the practice squad, but he couldn't even make their 53-man roster.
That's true. Yeah.
So Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke were his quarterbacks. That's horrible.
Yeah.
Those are barely replacement level players. And Marcus Mariota, don't forget him. But Marcus Mariota. These are not good quarterbacks throwing the ball. I think Drake London and Kyle Pitts are going to have great years this year because Kirk Cousins always finds his one guy that he just loves.
Yeah.
It was Diggs in Minnesota before he got traded. Then it was Justin Jefferson. Just force feed them the ball. I think Drake London's going to be that guy. He kind of has to be. The Falcons don't have any other receivers. Their only one of note is Darnell Mooney, who was in Chicago with Fields. Fields had drawbacks as a passer, but Mooney also didn't show really anything over the years that he was there. So it's Drake London or bust for the Falcons wide receivers. I really, really like him this season. Trey McBride, Arizona Cardinals tight end, has somehow flown under the radar. He's one of the best tight ends in the league. Book it now. I mean, you have your top tier, you have your Kittle, you have your Kelsey, but then McBride, I think he's right up there with T.J. Hawkinson, Sam Laporta. I really like Trey McBride. Kyler Murray's healthy. This Arizona offense is going to be better. I mean, you add Marvin Harrison Jr., how can it not be better?
I think it'll be good.
I think it'll be all right. I'm still not fully sold on their offensive line.
Yeah.
But Trey McBride, love him. If he is available in your league, get him now because he won't be after week 1.
Now, your sell list is interesting in and of itself, and we're going to continue with some Rams hate here. Why do you hate the Rams running backs so much?
I hate the Rams running backs because the Rams offensive line is hurt going into the season. It wasn't that great last year anyway. And then you bring in... Now, I don't think they're bad players. Keep in mind we're talking about fantasy football, not real football here.
Right.
Blake Corum and Kyron Williams. Williams had a great year last year as a rookie, but they brought in Blake Corum. As long as Blake Corum's healthy, he's going to be a really solid addition to that backfield, they're going to split carries a lot. I think they both get 8 to 10 touches a game, if that, because keep in mind there's 2 more mouths you got to feed on that offense in Puka and Cooper Kupp. There's a lot of hungry mouths on this offense. I mean, their value is going to be so touchdown dependent in my eyes that like you can't really trot out either one of them as anything more than a fringe RB2 or a flex player. They're good players, just not in fantasy. And then, people, come at me if you want to. Every single Texans skill player, I don't like.
I might come at you.
Come at me, that's fine.
Yeah,
I don't
come
like
at you
any
a
of
little
them. I really don't, just because the same thing, so many mouths to feed. You go down their wide receiver depth chart, you got Stephon Diggs, big offseason addition, Nico Collins. Nico Collins, one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
Should have a big breakout year playing beside Diggs if he can get the ball enough. Tank Dell had a really good rookie season before he got hurt. And then you got John Mechie. John Mechie was a stud at Alabama. Unfortunately, he had some health troubles. He had leukemia, was it?
Yeah.
He's finally healthy now, which that is awesome for him that he's even continuing to play football. Big wild card. John Mechie could be something this year. Look out. They have Noah Brown, too. Noah Brown had like 300-yard games last year.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So that's 5 guys that should get the ball at least. Even Noah Brown, 2 catches a game. He shouldn't get more. And then their running backs. They added Joe Mixon, which kind of went under the radar. They still have Dameon Pierce. And then Cam Akers is in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Is there too. So, like, more guys splitting carries. I mean, Joe Mixon is horribly inefficient. The only reason he's a good fantasy back is because the Bengals had nothing better to do at running back, so they just kept giving him the ball all the time. Sell on Joe Mixon. Get rid of him now. Barely worth the roster spot in my eyes.
Holy cow.
Stroud is amazing. I love C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
He doesn't run.
No,
Running
no.
is such a big thing for quarterbacks anymore. I mean, that's why we love guys like Josh Allen, Lamar. Justin Herbert is kind of my comp for C.J. Stroud in fantasy because both of them are kind of stay-in-the-pocket guys. They'll scramble a little bit, but their receivers have to have a big day for them to really put up points.
See, the only thing I would push back there is that they're going to throw the ball so much that, like, these guys are going to be able to get 4 or 5, at minimum 4 or 5 catches a game.
Yeah.
Plus touchdowns thrown in there, too. So.
Yeah, I agree with JKruse because last year their offense was like a lot of run, pass. Like, they passed a lot on third down because they kind of had to, and I think Bobby Sloyd will kind of learn from that. And like you said, Nico Collins underrated. I think he's going to establish himself as the clear best receiver in that room and stand out. And already with the connection that he has with Stroud, I think he'll still. I agree with you for the most part. Like, the running back room, I'm not super high on.
No.
I think Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell will kind of split themselves, but Nico, I think, will still stand out in that room.
That's fair. And then one other name that I do want to mention on the Texans is Dalton Schultz.
Yeah.
Criminally underrated tight end.
Yep.
Like, he's not a superstar, but he is about the most consistent thing at tight end you can possibly have. He's going to give you 10 points every single week. 5 catches, 50 yards. 4 catches, 60 yards. Like, he's going to get you 10 points. Not a lot of touchdowns. Hopefully that changes this year. Because his last couple of years in Dallas, he did score more. I think it was just kind of a product of the system last year. Like Howard said, they didn't throw as much.
Yeah.
But Dalton Schultz is a name to keep an eye out for as well in that offense.
I'll go ahead and go through mine real quick. I love Alvin Kamara this year. He had a great 2023 when he actually played. And again, I just think it's one of those things where he's going to get so many catches out of the backfield. It's unreal. He may not go for a lot of yards, but he's at least going to catch them. And if you're in a PPR league, he's the right guy to have. I didn't draft him. It's good. I didn't draft him in any of my leagues this year, but I actually like George Pickens heading into this year, simply because I think Russell is going to use him a lot like he used Cortland Sutton last year. That's a guy who had some underrated weeks here and there sprinkled in, because Russell just loves those jump balls, those deep balls. He did it in Seattle. I think this is going to be a similar story for the time that he's starting. And even if Justin Fields comes in and plays some games, I still think George Pickens is going to be the guy that they're going to feed because they're not necessarily stars in that receiver depth chart outside of George. So I like him. And then listen, I think Derrick Henry is going to have a great resurgence year in Baltimore, but I feel like more of that will be because he'll be more efficient this year, as opposed to having a lot of yards, as opposed to scoring a lot of touchdowns. The Ravens have never, really ever since Ray Rice was there, they've never been a bell cow back type of a team. And so they like to rotate guys in. And so I see Derrick Henry getting a bunch of carries a game, but not nearly as many as he was getting in Tennessee. He won't be relied on nearly as much. So given where he's being taken in drafts right now, and if you're in a 10-12 man league, it's like third, fourth round, I don't know if I would take him there just because I don't think he's going to get as many touches. Again, he'll have a good season, just not from a fantasy standpoint.
I misinterpreted, I think, our sheet a little bit because I did just for the week in terms of guys I'm buying or selling. But
Yeah, that's how I meant it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still, like I said earlier, I'm taking Josh Jacobs going against the Eagles because I do not love the Eagles linebackers. And I think in a Shanahan offense with LaFleur coaching, I think you're getting a lot of different guys are going to eat, basically, which is kind of how the receiver room is spread up. And then you open that up for Jacobs being the running back, kind of taking that Aaron Jones role and being maybe a little bit more explosive. This week, Rashid Shaheed for the Saints going against the Panthers. Panthers do not have a good defense.
No.
Only two players notable are J.C. Horn, who gets hurt every year, and Derek Brown, who's a beast up front, but he's not doing much for the receiver. So Rashid Shaheed, even though he has Derek Carr throwing him the ball, I'm picking him this week. I'm selling Xavier Worthy. Like I mentioned when we went through Ravens and Chiefs predictions, the Ravens have a beast secondary, and I don't know how he'll be able to really stand out in terms of, it's going to be struggle defensively. I think it'll be a close game, like we said, similar to that Lions game that opened the year last year with the Chiefs. But I'm selling Xavier Worthy just for this first week. I do think him and Mahomes will have a pretty good connection going deep. I'm also selling T. Higgins this week.
Come on. I drafted him yesterday.
Just for this week, though, because the Patriots, as bad as the Patriots were last year, they have a defense that is respectable.
Yeah.
In the secondary especially. I think Jamar's going to eat. T. Higgins, supposed to be contract year last year, he got off to a terrible start in fantasy last year. So I don't think it'll be that much different, especially this first week going against a Patriots secondary, where you might have some kinks in the Bengals offense. I do want to think, where are you guys at on the Bengals? Because people are taking to just be back with Joe Burrow, just real quick. But people are taking to be back with Joe Burrow so quick, but that defense was really bad last year. And even though Burrow is back, I'm interested in you guys taking.
They really missed Jesse Bates a lot more than I think people thought they were going to. And not that he wasn't already a great player, but they didn't do a great job at replacing him. I don't think Dax Hill is really.
Yeah.
I don't think he's all that great.
They can move in the corner.
He was. Yeah. He was a little overrated in college even when he was at Michigan. Like he just has never lived up to the hype, and he certainly didn't help him last year. Yeah, I mean, overall, I kind of feel the same way about him. I still think they can win that division. I still think they can make a run in the playoffs, but I still don't think I would say Super Bowl quite yet. Again, and you go back to the year that they made the Super Bowl, it was kind of a fluky run. I mean, not that they didn't earn it, but there was a lot of things that just happened to go their way, and they took advantage. And that's what you're supposed to do. But no, I wouldn't say Super Bowl, but my stock isn't too low on them.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think their defense is going to be better because Trey Hendrickson got hurt last year. Trey Hendrickson, one of the most underrated players in the league at defensive end. He's phenomenal. Sam Hubbard was hurt for a time, not as long, but he missed a few games. Their linebacker core is solid. Their secondary is still a question mark.
Yeah.
I mean, they're trotting out Geno Stone, Von Bell, Jordan Battle, Tyson Anderson.
Can't Taylor Britt is good, though. He's solid.
Yeah.
Maybe not as a cornerback one, but like he's a solid corner.
Yeah. I don't know. I think their offense will
They lost DJ Reader, too.
They did lose DJ Reader, and that's a big one at defensive tackle to lose. Their offense is going to be fine. I like their addition of Travion Williams at running back. As long as Burrow's healthy, they'll be okay. Their offensive line still kind of sucks. Like, they try to fix it every year.
For the fifth year in a row.
Yeah, 5th year in a row. Like, Orlando Brown is a good addition, but, I mean, I'm not high on their offensive line. They got to find a way to keep Burrow healthy. Hopefully his dyed hair does something for him this year. So,
NFL Week 1 starting on Thursday. Cannot wait. It's going to be an unbelievable NFL season. Right before we get into dog treats, because I'm really excited for that segment, we do have to talk some stickball. And I will say, been a great last couple of weeks for me and Ryan's team.
Oh, baby.
Really got us thinking about the wild card, and I think, Howard, that's where you wanted to start off. So go ahead and take it away. Let's get into some wild card discussion, shall we?
Yes, we will. So the thing about the wild card right here, we'll start off with the NL. I think the Diamondbacks and the Padres have those spots locked up one way or another. I think they're playing really well right now. But the Braves just went into Philadelphia and lost 3 out of 4. The Mets, they just swept the White Sox, so they took care of business. They're 1 game back of the Braves for that 3rd spot. But creeping behind them 3 games back is the Chicago Cubbies. They're 5 games over 500 now. You guys are doing what I think a lot of teams would like to do, is taking advantage of a weak schedule, handling your business. And now, looking forward, I just want to get where you guys' heads at, because there is a legitimate chance that you guys can get into the playoffs. Do you think you will? Because looking in it, it's like I just can't envision the Braves not in the playoffs, but they're so banged up. Their lineup, I mean, if you watched Sunday Night Baseball last night, the guys they had going up there, it's like, man, this is not the Atlanta Braves.
No.
And the Mets, as good as they're playing, I can't envision them in the playoffs really either. It's kind of an amazing season they've had. Where are you guys at on your team?
Yeah, no, I mean, do I think we would beat the Braves in a series if we played against them? Yeah, but unfortunately that doesn't matter. It matters how many wins and losses you have. If I had to predict, I wouldn't predict the Cubs to make it, unfortunately, just because I think our schedule, as easy as it has been right now, and it's funny, we've been taking care of business lately to the best degree that we can, and it's just crazy. You look at how easy it's been the last few weeks, and then you look back at our first half schedule. Our first half was a gauntlet, straight up, and so it's weird how they just divided it all like that, and we happen to get all the quote-unquote easier teams in the second half. But again, you're playing the schedule game. You look what the Braves have coming up: 3 at home against Colorado, terrible. 3 at home against Toronto, who I think I heard a stat. They played yesterday, and by yesterday I mean Sunday. Sunday's game, they played the youngest lineup in Toronto Blue Jays history.
They said Vladdy,
So, yeah, I mean, they don't have much juice left. They get 1 game against Cincinnati and then 2 against Washington. I would be very shocked if they didn't go 7-2 in that stretch. And then they have a home series versus LA. So, I mean, they're getting the one difficult team in this 3-week stretch here. They're getting them at home, and they play at Cincy and at Miami before that, those last couple of weeks against the Mets and Royals. But even so, like, the Royals are kind of struggling lately, and again, I don't think the Mets have a lot of juice. The Braves have figured out how to navigate all their health concerns. I mean, despite the fact that they are injured to crap, they have been winning a lot more lately. They did just beat Philly in a 3-game series, beat Washington, and then swept the Twins too. I think they've kind of figured it out, and so that's what has me worried about the fact that they have an upcoming schedule here where, look, if they lost a couple games to the Rockies, I wouldn't be shocked, because again, they are just that injured. But I think they've figured it out, unfortunately for the Cubs. And so yeah, and then we got the Yankees and Dodgers coming up back-to-back this weekend, both on the road. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, the Cardinals went in the Yankee Stadium and hit them like it was nobody's business, and they haven't been able to score runs all season. So who knows? One last thing I'll say: the Cubs have scored 99 runs in the last 10 games, which I think was the most runs we've scored in a 10-game stretch in at least 50 years, I think I saw, which is just, it's unbelievable how this team has turned a corner. I think Pete Armstrong has a big part in that. He's been everything and more over these last few weeks. He's definitely going to be a cornerstone for our future. Great to see. Our rotation's finally fully healthy now. Jordan Wicks came back on Sunday. I kind of forgot about his existence, honestly, because he's been very spotty in his starts this season. So if he can stay healthy, like, I'm very, very confident about our ability to win games. But again, the Braves' schedule is pretty easy. I just don't know that there are enough games left for us to fully overtake them. And again, we don't have the tiebreaker with them either. So we're going to have to cross them and get 4 games on them between now and the end of the month. And again, there's the Mets too, and we're still 2 games behind the Mets. So to me, there's too many mental gymnastics I have to go through to try and put the Cubs in there. Hopefully they do, obviously, and that would be awesome. But I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, the Cubs are 9-1 in their last 10 games. It's been so refreshing to see. It just makes me so sad because we have 3 against the Pirates at home. No. At home. And then Yankees, Dodgers. Those 6 games are what are going to make or break the Cubs this season. If they don't take at least 4 of those they're done.
I forgot the Yankee series is at home. I said it was on the road. It is at home, thankfully, but it is the Yankees, and they're a good team. So.
Yeah, they got Yankees, Dodgers, but then if they can weather that stretch, they finish the season 3 against the Rockies, 3 against the A's, 4 against the Nationals. They got 3 against the Phillies, but then 3 against the Reds. So, like, if they can weather this Yankees and Dodgers stretch, they really have a chance of at least making up ground. They may not get in, but they might miss by 1 game, which would be more heartbreaking. But
the Pirates series here is going to set the tone for what we can afford to lose against the Yankees and Dodgers. I think if we sweep the Pirates, we can probably even afford to go 2-4 against the Yankees and Dodgers, because we'd still gain a game overall in our record. But if we only win 2 out of 3 against the Pirates, we're going to need to go 3-3 or 4-2 against the Yankees and Dodgers. And I don't want to have to feel that kind of pressure heading into those series this weekend. And again, who knows? The Yankees pitching staff is very, very, very injured in of their own right, very, very shaken at the moment. So we might be able to hit them around a little bit, but I mean, again, with the way the Dodgers have been playing lately, nobody wants to play them right now. So it's going to be interesting. And I'm at the very least, I'm happy we're playing meaningful games in September. I didn't know that was going to be possible just a few weeks ago.
All right, next up, we got the awards. I feel like there's a lot of discussion. Kind of sparked it was last week on the pod. Ryan, you talked about Bobby Witt being your MVP. I guess we can start there with the AL MVP. Aaron Judge is having an incredible season. Like we said, modern-day Barry Bonds. But you picked Bobby Witt, and I really do see the argument in both leagues, and we'll get into that. But where are you at on why is Bobby Witt your pick for MVP?
So, MVP, most valuable player to me, I'm one of the people who is of the mind, most valuable player to your team. Now, Aaron Judge is incredibly important to the Yankees, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think MLB voters might be having kind of the same deal NBA voters did. So, look at Nikola Jokic winning, he won, 3 consecutive MVPs?
I think 2. Was
2.
it 3?
2, and then I don't think he got the third.
Yeah.
2. He didn't get the third. Voter fatigue. He should have won that third one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Judge is going to have a bit of just voter fatigue. Even if he hasn't won an MVP recently, it's just he's always in the conversation. Like having a fresh name like Bobby Witt up there, people are like, man, look at what the Royals are doing over there. I don't think Witt will win it. I think he should, but I don't have an issue, I guess, if Aaron Judge wins it, because like you guys are saying, modern-day Bonds, what he's done for the Yankees, just keeping them relevant, because without Aaron Judge, what would they be? They'd be just not much.
That wouldn't be a great team.
No, they would not be a good team.
Them and the Orioles have kind of stalled lately.
Yeah.
They haven't gone cold. Like neither of them have gone on a huge losing streak or
Or like
anything.
under 500.
They're just very below average lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little concerning, honestly, for both of those teams heading into the playoffs.
The thing about Judge is like the counting numbers that he's accumulated. Like he had over 100 RBIs, I think, before August started, and he was on track, I think, to beat his home run record from a couple years ago. But he hasn't homered in like the last week or so.
Yeah.
I just like you said, I don't see a way where the voters would vote Witt over Judge. Like there could be voter fatigue, but voter fatigue, it'll have to be a lot closer in terms of, I think, the counting stats, where Judge's numbers are just gaudy when you look at them overall.
Yeah. And the way I see it is like, he's not. Their seasons aren't as comparable, really, in my head as you might think. I mean, again, Judge's season is so far above Witt's in my mind, and as great as Bobby is, again, the modern day Barry Bonds, he just had a week where he had 6 home runs in a row. Like, there's nobody in the league doing that right now at the clip that he is. And so, again, he leads 5 of the 6 of the like traditional batting statistics, and he leads all the metrics too. So it's really not as close to me, but Bobby Witt is right there. And if Aaron Judge didn't exist, I don't think we'd even be having this conversation right now. It would be Bobby in a heartbeat.
Yeah, the pushback is just Bobby defensively, and also his stolen bases. I mean, he's probably the best defensive shortstop in the league, and we'll talk about another one in a second. But him and his ability to steal bases, I mean, he's literally the face of that franchise. That was a great job for them to sign him before the season.
For sure.
Next, we got the NL MVP, and Shohei doing Shohei things. I think he's 43 homers and 43 steals right now.
Yep.
He was the clear MVP for a while, But there's a guy in the other side of New York, another shortstop who's fighting in the race. I think he leads Shohei a little bit by FWAR, Fangraphs WAR,
Interesting.
because he's literally great defensively as well. But I'm looking at that lineup as well, and Lindor stands out. Alonso's having a little bit of a down year.
Yep.
Nimmo fell back to earth a little bit. They have a good lineup, but Lindor is clearly the alpha ever since they moved him to the leadoff spot. Like I said, he leads in Fangraphs WAR, which I think a lot of people hold on to because of that defense. Where are you guys at? I do think it's still Shohei. I mean, going 43 and 43 is ridiculous. But
Yeah,
even though he's a
Shohei.
DH. Yeah.
Shohei, no real argument there. Again, it is great to see Lindor having a real bounce back of his season after last year's debacle, but yeah, no, not too much conversation to be had. Shohei, the way that he's stealing bases too now, he's second in the league in stolen bases, which is just outrageous, and he's probably going to go back to pitching next year. So it's just, yeah, there's no real debate there. It's Ohtani and Judge's world, and we're just living in it right now.
Yeah, I mean, Lindor, it's a good thing he's leading in wins above replacement because just looking at his stat page, batting .269, 29 home runs, 80 RBIs, like, his defense is what's keeping him afloat because his offensive stats sure aren't overly impressive.
All right, next we got AL Cy Young. I think it's Tarek Skubal for right now.
Yeah.
Corbin Burns has got roughed up his last few starts, and there's some stuff there with him where his cutter and his stuff in general just isn't getting as much swing and miss, which is led to getting hit around a little bit more. But I think it is. Going into a contract year too, which is rough a little bit. But I think it is Tarek Skubal. Do we have any differences there?
No, I mean he's been the reason that the Tigers have even won games for a majority of this season.
Yeah. They're over 500.
And they've got hot lately too.
Yeah.
They're very, very similar to the Cubs in that their record, if the team averaged like 4 runs a game or something, would be like ridiculous compared to what it is now. So yeah, he's carrying that organization.
Yeah, I got nothing more on that. I mean, he's first in ERA, he's first in wins, first in strikeouts. Like, you just can't top that.
Triple crown.
Stud.
Yeah.
All right, NL Cy Young, which I think is a little bit more of a discussion.
Definitely.
We have Chris Sale, Zach Wheeler. I'm forgetting somebody, but
Hunter Green,
who got hurt recently, and that probably turned that race upside down. But where we at on NL Cy Young? I think I'm taking Sale.
I would take
slightly.
Sale. Again, it's the same kind of theory as Skubal. Like he's keeping that rotation afloat almost single-handedly. 15-3 for him this year. That's probably the best. It's one of the best signings of the offseason.
It was a trade too. They traded Vaughn
Was it a
Grissom
trade?
for him. Traded
Oh,
Vaughn
to the
Grissom
Red
for him.
Sox, right? Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
and then they extended him before there.
right. Like that's huge. And you know he's kind of getting into that Max Scherzer territory where he's almost aging like a fine wine. Obviously, Scherzer now is a little off to what he used to be, but that's because he's 40 and not 37. Like the fact that he's 35 years old and doing what he's doing is nothing short of incredible, especially in a year. But like I said, the Braves freaking need it, and he's one of the very few reasons that they're even in this spot right now.
Yeah,
for sure. And I mean, you look at how Chris Sale has really been able to bounce back. He had 2 really rough years in Boston. Last year was better, but he only pitched 20 games. He's already at 25 games this year.
Yeah.
How he's been able to really come back and just remind us, this is Chris Sale we're talking about. Like, he is still at the top of his game for sure.
He's low-key on a Hall of Fame trajectory. I mean, the injuries really hampered him. It's going to come down to the counting stats, but I mean, in his prime, bro, like when he's on the field, even in Chicago, and then in spurts with the Red Sox, and now we're seeing it again. I mean, he might win a Cy Young, and that's 2, right? I mean, he's dominant.
That's the only thing with him and DeGrom that's like, I mean, they're Hall of Fame caliber pitchers, but then statistically it's just they struggle to stay on the field. Like Chris Sale went away for a long time before he just came back this season really, and so I mean he's a Hall of Fame level pitcher. His stuff is unfreaking real. It always has been. So
I think this is the most polarizing race right now is Paul Skeens versus Jackson Merrill for the NL Rookie of the Year. Skeens is, I think he's got hit a little bit more recently. And also, there are talks about him shutting him down to get the innings because the Pirates, they fell back out of the race. The Padres came in last week to St. Louis, and I saw Jackson Merrill up close, and he's an amazing player. His OPS is back over 800. After last year, the Padres, the downfall with them was it was basically Soto and nobody else. So now their lineup is so much more deep, and Jackson Merrill as a rookie to be able to come in and help them. I think kind of with Ryan with the MVP, the valuable, Paul Skeens, he's a great pitcher, but look at the Pirates, and it still didn't do that much for him. Jackson Merrill's playing every day. And it only recently, I was still in the Skeens train a little bit, but now I've changed. I think Merrill is my rookie of the year.
He's also been incredibly clutch, too.
Yeah,
like, it's not just that he's putting up stats. He's coming up in the big moments. He looks like a veteran out there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't watch him play and think, oh, there's a rookie making rookie mistakes. No, he's a whole man. So, I'm a big Jackson Merrill guy.
Yeah, I mean, what he's done for the Padres this year, just to be such a stabilizing force. I mean, because Padres have been so streaky with Tatis and Manny Machado just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Healthy, not hitting well, not fielding well. He's been such a stabilizing force for him that I definitely think he should get that.
Last one is AL Rookie of the Year, unless you guys want to get on a Manager of the Year or something like that. But I think there's not a complete standout in terms of a guy having an amazing season. Colton Cowser, I think, is the betting favorite right now in Baltimore. But Austin Wells, just got a chance to watch him when we went up to New York, and he played really well. He had 2 homers on Friday night.
Yep.
And he's also playing well defensively. His OPS is nearing 800. I think mine is Austin Wells. They keep playing. Cowser has the counting stats because he's an everyday player. Catchers with Wells, obviously, you don't get to play every single day. You get an off day at least once in a series. But I think going forward is Wells, but I think right now Cowser would win it.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I mean, there's so many guys on the Orioles that have been playing at a high level all season. Colton Cowser is the perfect example of that.
Yeah, I think it is too.
Do we want to get in the Manager of the Year or not?
We don't have to get into a huge discussion about it. I think in the NL it's actually pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
I think Pat Murphy is easily the Manager of the Year.
Yeah.
He's taken what Craig Counsell left, and their roster didn't get better from last. They traded away Corbin Burns.
Got worse for sure.
And
At
the
least
team
on
got
paper.
better somehow.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable what he's doing. By the way, Willie Adames just hit a 3-run homer, so they're beating the Cardinals 3-0 right now. Anyway, but here's the thing: they're winning games the same way. They're just winning more games this year. As crazy as that sounds, and the NL Central is slightly better this year, even too, just with more stars and entertaining product. But yeah, Pat Murphy's. I mean, what he's been able to do has been incredible. Now, I don't know how that's going to translate to playoff baseball. I actually don't think it'll translate well because the Brewers' way to win games is like what happened today, for example, like literally 2 minutes ago. A 3-run homer by Willie Adames in the first inning, and they're probably not going to score the rest of the game. Like, they need their starters to continue to perform, and I just don't think that they have that star power to do it anymore. I really don't. And William Contreras is another guy that has been absolutely incredible this year. I'm pretty sure he started the All-Star game. But, man, I don't think it's going to translate. But the fact that they're winning as many games as they are, with everything they lost off that roster, it's been nothing short of incredible. And I can't stand the Brewers. I honestly hate them more than the Cardinals right now, just because of how annoying they are and how they win games like that by going 7 innings without touching a ball, and yet they win the game. So it is what it is. But, yeah, I would go him.
Yeah, Christian Yelich got hurt, and they're still winning games.
Yeah. Stupid.
Like I said last week on my manager thing, I don't know exactly what he's doing. Can't really put it into words what they're doing exactly, but like you said, JKruse, same thing. Shortening games, getting a big hit, timely hit, and then shutting it down with your bullpen. So, AL Manager of the Year, I think it's going to be in the AL Central, whoever that is. So, either Stephen Vogt for Cleveland,
Stephen Vogt, yeah,
or Matt Quatraro in Kansas City. But Vogt, I think the Royals were expected to be better. I think both these teams weren't expected to be as good as they were, but the Guardians, especially in the first half, their offense was playing, and then they have the best bullpen in the league, and the starting pitching injuries and depletions they've had to still be able to win games, I think it would go to Vogt right now.
I agree, and I will say the Royals, their over/under win total at the beginning of the season was 73.5.
They won 50-something games last year.
They're 75-63 now, and so it's been nothing short of incredible in terms of raising above expectations.
Yeah,
I would say, but in terms of just better team and the way they're winning games, I would go with Stephen Vogt in Cleveland. MLB, last month of the season, incredible baseballs to be had. Like I said last week, I think there's more good teams this year than we had in recent years, a lot more teams that can win it. Yeah. And again, it's not watered down. It's just a bunch of really, really good teams. So it's going to be an incredible month of September. Hopefully our Cubbies can sneak it out and at least go into maybe the last week with a chance. But now we're going to get on to our dog treats and wrap up this pod, another beautiful day pod. Ryan Greaser, you're about to make us question our life, question our everything with your dog treat, it seems.
I did question my life when I saw the stat this morning. So I was talking about how young the Packers were. The list that I saw, Jair Alexander's going into year 7. I could not believe that. And so I started thinking more. I was like, okay, if he's going into year 7, who's older than him? TJ Watt's going to turn 30 in October. TJ Watt could have been one of the greatest Packers of all time, but no, they just had to take Kevin King, who lost them a Super Bowl. I stand by that. Packers would have won that 2020
He's
Super
a
Bowl.
Wisconsin guy. Like, it just makes all the sense in the world.
Tell me about it. I've thought about it. That keeps me up at night, how
Yeah.
TJ Watt is not a Packer, but he's going to be 30. Preston Smith, like, I remember that free agent class. It was Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith,
Oh my gosh.
Billy Turner. Preston Smith's been a Packer. This is going to be his 6th year.
That just blew my mind.
Like, just
6 years?
Yeah. How fast time has gone.
Yeah.
Was his first year, that would have been, 2019 was his first year then?
24,
Or
23,
18?
22,
18 or 19.
21, 20, 19. So 19, yeah.
Sheesh.
Wow.
I mean, I guess I remember it now, but holy crap.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, just thinking about guys like that, and I mean, you look at, who's another one? Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
going to be 33 or 34. Now, he was old coming out of college. I think he was
Dak's
23.
33?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Dak, let me check
Somebody
that
gotta pay
real
him,
quick,
too.
but I'm almost certain that Dak is 33.
I'm going to go lay in that field over there. But just think about, holy cow.
Yeah.
No way. There's
Dak-
no way Dak's 33.
No, he's not. He's 31. He will turn
Oh, okay.
32 during this
The
season.
fact that there's a
Yeah.
3 on his age still
Yeah.
is like
Yeah.
wild. Okay.
Mhm.
Wow.
Well, here's another one for you. Ezekiel Elliott.
Well, you already went
See,
over
this
that.
one doesn't shock me
Zeke's 29.
because he plays like it.
But,
Zeke
but
is
the
29.
2016
He's
thing you
he's
said-
younger.
That one actually is surprising
He's
me. I
younger
thought
than
Zeke was older.
I think
You-
they came out in the same year.
They
too.
did come out
yeah.
the same year.
Yeah.
When you said 2016 earlier with Zeke, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I remember that.
Yeah.
Like, when the
Mhm.
long hair,
Yep.
crop top jersey, everything going on. But
Yeah. That
Holy cow.
that makes me feel really bad and realize I am not old, but I sure feel old when I hear things like that.
Yeah. So kind of with baseball season pretty much at its peak right now with the playoff race, right? And then football season starts. I found myself this weekend watching more football than baseball just because I think there's it's that like newness to it, right? And then with football it never wears off because we only get one game a week for our
Exactly,
favorite
yeah.
teams, right? But I was kind of mad at myself that I didn't watch as much baseball. And so I thought of something on Saturday morning and I was like, man, like I want to be able to watch as many games as I want to, but the problem is I find it difficult when I'm watching games, especially when you do like the YouTube TV quad box. I find it hard to pay attention to all 4 games. I don't really feel like I'm watching something. So Howard, you're going to pose the question here that I posed on Saturday morning
yeah.
on my story. I was like, do you guys like quad box setups or do you guys like a single game? Now, here, I'll before you start, I'll put this caveat in there. Multiple TVs to me is different than like 4 games on one TV.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
That's different. I like that. But I guess what are your thoughts on that? Because Red Zone's coming up obviously this
Yeah.
weekend. Everyone's excited for that. I've really never been a big fan of Red Zone. I got to be
Really?
honest with you. Like I'm just a one-game guy.
The thing about, I think, college football and the NFL is like, there's several games that you're like, okay, I want to see those. But I also just want to watch football in general. So I think for just a slate where it's not necessarily a huge game that I have to get to, that's why I love the quad box, because with the commercials, especially in college, the commercials, I can focus one game. Okay, this one's getting interesting. They're in the red zone or whatever. Not necessarily it is red zone, but for the NFL, me being a Seahawks fan, a lot of our games are in those 3 o'clock slot. So when I wake up and I go to the 12 o'clock slot, there's not a whole lot of big time games in that early slot. So I think this week is Texans and Colts. So I might do quad box, but just focus on Texans Colts necessarily. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
some people, they have the quad box with fantasy and the quad box with their
Yeah.
betting lines and stuff like that. So I think it just depends on what you want to do. I'm focused on, okay, what's the big game? What game is the most appealing to me? I might focus that one, or if there's not a game, then I'll do quad box just to see what the league is doing.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I saw YouTube TV is doing the like updated. You can connect your fantasy team
Yeah,
now, but it's
yeah.
only for Yahoo and NFL.com, and I don't have teams on either of those sites,
Nope, I don't
so I'm
either.
screwed over there.
I don't
So
either.
that would be freaking cool though, but fortunately I won't get it. Ryan, are you a one TV guy, or are you or a one game
one
guy,
game,
or
yeah.
can you do the quad box on one TV?
Quad box for me is just like sensory overload. Like I'm seeing movement.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't have ADHD. I just really struggle to focus. Like if I see stuff moving on another part of the screen, I'm like, what was that? And then
Yeah,
I miss something over here, but I missed something up in the top right,
Right.
and then I missed something. I like a single game, but the recall button is my best friend when I'm watching football because
Oh,
with that recall
yes,
button, you can
yes.
just flip back to your other game.
That's a throwback.
It is a throwback. We had that up until last year at home. So if I
Oh,
go home
really?
on a weekend, boom, recall button,
Right
to get
back.
back to the other game. It was
That's great.
awesome.
I do want to say I prefer red zone over quad box because it actually is getting me stuff that's happening. Like there could be nothing happening and I'm just watching 4 games, but I'm getting action. I'm going to when they're inside the 20 and stuff like that. So I prefer red zone over like a quad box, but I also just prefer one singular game.
Can I throw out another hot take? I'm not a huge fan of Scott Hansen.
Wow.
Really?
As a person, he's fine. I
Yeah.
just, again, this is just a me thing, but the fact that there's always somebody talking over the game, like, I'm not a huge fan of that.
I agree to an extent. I feel like there's a lot of people who just gas red zone and Scott Hansen. I don't know.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily get that part. I just like the aspect of being able to watch a
Sure.
lot of games where there's not available necessarily.
Yeah.
But I agree to an extent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. These are the first world problems we have to deal with, trying to figure out how many games we want to watch at once. But it is one of the best parts. And again, multiple TVs, man, that's what I like. One game on each TV, that's how I do it. But it does require more TVs. It requires more cordage and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right, last thing. This is completely non-sports related. Well, sort of. So I broke a personal record this weekend. I set a PR for not anything worth the crap, but I broke a personal record for time spent by myself in a restaurant. And you might be asking yourself, what were you doing in a restaurant for a long amount of time? So, as everyone knows that we've talked about it, I am the volleyball SID here at SIU, and they had a game yesterday against Oral Roberts, the game we talked about earlier, and it started at 10 a.m. And I was visiting some friends in Edwardsville this weekend because our fantasy draft was on Sunday night. Now, they were all working all day on Sunday, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to be in their apartment all day. So I like to, whenever I have something to do, like a long night of homework or a long night of work, I like to go somewhere and do it. Like this, for example, right? Well, I decided to go to Starbucks because they have Wi-Fi. And that's just, Starbucks is one of those places where people just go and like they bring their computers and stuff and they just sit. So I'm like, okay, I'll be one of those people today. I got there at 9 a.m. The game started at 10. I got there at 9, ordered a coffee, brought it over, sat down.
What'd you get?
I'm not gonna say what I get. Just know it. It doesn't really taste like coffee. That's all I'm gonna say. And I didn't leave till 2:15. So I sat down for about
5 hours, yeah.
5.5 hours ish at Starbucks yesterday, and that's a personal record for me, being by myself. Now, in groups, especially like at B-Dubs on an NFL Sunday or whatever, I've probably spent 6-7 hours just watching football all day.
Yeah.
But like it was an interesting experience, and the entire time I was thinking to myself, like, I wonder if like they can't like get me for like loitering or anything because I bought something from them, right? Like I'm a paying customer. I even got like a big ice water as well, so like I was drinking Starbucks the whole time.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't like really packed either because people don't really sit down in restaurants like that as much as they used to anymore. Like it's not like the whole internet cafe thing is kind of gone, but yeah, it was interesting. And I guess the question I would ask off of this is like, am I alone in feeling like when I have a long night of being on my computer or whatever, that like I don't want to be at home, like I'd rather be somewhere else. Like, am I weird for that, or is that a common thing?
I feel like if I was at home for doing something long, especially late at night, I'd probably fall asleep. So
Exactly.
that's why like I like to go to the library.
There you
and
go.
then just probably no more than like maybe like 2 or 3 hours, and just get a whole lot of stuff done. I guess it's a feeling of being more productive, but I would say the
Yes.
library for me, versus because at home you just get distracted
100%.
doing no matter what. Like I will do something for like 5 minutes. And I'm like, I'll do this later. I'll
Yeah,
do this a
exactly.
little bit later.
Nope.
'Cause I'm a pretty big procrastinator.
Same way. Like, I have, JKruse, I can break your record. It was not in a restaurant. I was in Morris Library for about 9 hours at one point.
Gosh.
I brought a lunch that day because I knew I was going to be in the library all day. Now, to be fair, I did fall asleep for about 2 hours of that. So, I'm not going to tell you where my spot is because I gatekeep that spot so hard.
Okay.
But
Alright.
good spot in the library. I have done, I don't even want to think about how much work I've done sitting in that spot. Not even going to tell you like what kind of spot it is.
Can I ask?
Just
Can I at least ask what color floor it is?
a yellow floor,
Okay.
which
So it's not completely silent,
which for listeners, like, yellow floor is like quiet conversation,
right?
like
Yeah.
You
not
can have
talking
group
full
discussions,
volume.
but yeah.
Yeah. Now, I put in earbuds or I put on my headphones that are noise canceling. So like,
Right.
I only go to that spot because I have a window, so like I'm not just sitting in a dark little box like my room in my apartment
Oh,
is.
so you have a window. Okay.
I do have a window.
I'm gonna find this dang
That-
spot.
Are you like, you said the window? Do you prefer those places where like it's a little bit more open? I guess to say, like, not necessarily a super dark corner.
Mhm.
Because for me personally, if it's like a tight dark corner, that's perfect for me. I could get right in there and I'm cool.
I gotta have a window. Like, I had to move my desk at my apartment when I came back down this summer because I needed to rearrange my room, and now
Yeah.
I don't sit by my window, which I don't like. So that's why I go to the library now. But
Interesting.
yeah, I need a window. I
It's
need
a
to be able to
yellow
like
floor.
look out and not just feel like
Window.
totally
There's a
inside.
window. It's in the library. I'm gonna find this dang spot. No, I'm just kidding.
You might.
So okay, so I'm not alone, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Because I feel like, again, I don't know how many people, like I remember when I got there at 9, and then there was these like group of like 12-year-old girls sitting down, and I saw so many people just come in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Like I felt like I lived there. But no, it was, honestly, it wasn't that bad. Like I was very, very locked in too, so I wasn't really like looking around all that much.
Great feeling.
So it went by pretty quickly. Like I sat, literally didn't move. I kid you not. Didn't go to the bathroom. I sat in the exact same spot for 5 straight hours. And I moved seats once. I moved seats because I
There
had
you
to charge
go.
my computer. And they have, thankfully at Starbucks, they have the tables with the plugs on them.
Yeah.
So I had to move then. But like I didn't go to the bathroom. I got up to get an ice water once. Like it was a weird experience. But yeah, man, I just felt weird. I felt weird, but at the same time, I was like, I kind of enjoyed it. So, I don't know. It was just nice and peaceful and some ambiance, and had my headphones in, obviously, listening to a fantasy football podcast, trying to prepare for my draft later that night. So yeah, it was a good day. It was a good day, but it was just crazy thinking about being in a spot for 5 hours by yourself, just sitting there, just wasting away and wondering if the employees are going to kick you out at some point. So, that being said, this was episode 2 of the Inside Sports Podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, please check out the new YouTube channel, Inside Sports. This week's podcast will release on
Not sure yet.
Ballpark It
Ballpark it. We're hoping like Thursday.
Thursday. For Howard Woodard, for Ryan Greaser, this is JKruse signing off, and we will see you next week. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.